In this video, we are going to uncover some personal resources that will help you take calm, purposeful action. In the field of positive psychology, researchers and practitioners study and help people tap into their personal strengths of character. Character strengths are our personal capacities for thinking and behaving in ways that benefit ourselves and others. Individuals typically describe these strengths as essential to who they are, as naturally energizing and easy to use. Researchers have identified 24 character strengths that represent the best of human qualities. They are valued across cultures and time. If you would like to identify your top strengths, you can take the free VIA Character Strengths Assessment offered by the VIA Institute of Character. This assessment will help you to identify your top strengths. Using our strengths have a lot of benefits. They can help us to cope with stress, develop protective habits, reframe and respond to challenges, connect with others, and increase our well-being. The strengths are categorized under 6 universal virtues: justice, courage, wisdom, transcendence, humanity, and temperance. The idea is that using these strengths leads to these virtues. Let's revisit the different stress responses that we can choose. The rise to the challenge response, where we marshal all of our resources to take action. The bigger than self response, where we connect with others and reach out for social support. And the what can I learn response, where we appraise the situation and evaluate it for learning that we can use to grow for the next time. When we are faced with the belief that there is a threat that we cannot handle, which causes us stress, our character strengths can then help us respond to this adversity in one of these healthy ways. Dr. McGonigal says that stress can awaken the core human strengths involving courage, connection, and growth. We can use our strengths in ways that promote coping. For instance, if we're strong in the courage strengths, we can use those for the rise to the challenge response. The humanity and justice strengths can help us forge connections for the bigger than self social response. The wisdom strengths can help us with the what can I learn response. Temperance strengths, prudence, humility, self-regulation can help us avoid or de-escalate conflict. And the transcendence strengths can help us connect to something bigger than ourselves and experience the protective benefits of positive emotion. In my research with activists, self-compassion, which is a combination of kindness, love, and perspective, positively correlated with well-being and negatively correlated with burnout. Compassion is an emotion of care combined with a desire to alleviate suffering. Just as it can be challenging to show compassion to others, it can be even more challenging to show it to ourselves. Self-compassion has been widely misunderstood as self-pity or weakness. But in reality, self-compassion is a powerful response to suffering that supports psychological health and many, many other desirable outcomes. Researcher Kristin Neff created this model of self-compassion that includes 3 components: mindfulness, self-kindness, and common humanity. Mindfulness versus over-identification. If you're like me and something bad happens or you mess up, you may tend to fixate on it to the point where your response feels almost as bad as the thing that happened itself. This is called rumination, and it doesn't help us. It actually prolongs our suffering. Instead, self-compassionate people practice mindfulness when they are suffering. This means that they stand back and observe their feelings without judgment. The simple difference between saying, I am so embarrassed, and I am noticing that I'm so embarrassed, takes some of the power away from the emotion. It loosens its grip on us and puts a little buffer between ourselves and what we're feeling. Mindfulness is a helpful skill to learn because when life inevitably gets hard and unpleasant, it gives us a chance to pause and choose the best course of action. We can stop having knee-jerk reactions that make the problem worse, and instead, we can decide to respond in the best way. Self-kindness versus self-judgment. I used to be my own worst critic. Whenever I made a mistake, I would berate myself for it. Even when someone else was wrong, I would still be hard on myself. Do you know what I'm talking about? I think this is our brain's way of trying to be helpful, but it's just making things worse. So the first step in silencing your harsh inner critic is to stop and think about what you would say to your best friend or child who is hurting from a similar situation. Would you tell them how stupid or careless they were? Of course not. Would you highlight their faults? No. You would be loving and kind. So why don't we show ourselves the same kindness? I think that is something to practice because the research shows that when we are kind to ourselves, we are more likely to recover and rebound quickly. It is true what they say, love is more motivating and powerful than fear. Common humanity versus isolation. When we are suffering, it is common to want to hide and isolate ourselves from everyone. We slink off to lick our wounds or self-medicate with food, alcohol, or sleep. For some reason, we are embarrassed to reach out to others in times of suffering, perhaps because we don't want to be a burden to them. But the truth is, everyone suffers. It's part of life, and we need to fight the urge to self-isolate. If we can allow ourselves to admit that we are part of a common human experience when we suffer, we are less likely to suffer alone and more likely to seek valuable social support. The good news is that self-compassion can be learned. Dr. Kristen Neff generously shares free practices and resources on her website, selfcompassion.org, and in her book, Self-Compassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself. How would you treat a friend? Think of a time when a friend was struggling. What did you do or say? Now think about a time when you have struggled. How did you typically respond to that? And do you notice a difference? What made you behave so differently when you were caring for a friend than when you were caring for yourself? And how might things change if you responded to yourself more like your friend?